Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel, welcome to a new real-life car review. This episode I'm test driving the Mazda 6e, the new electric successor to the very popular Mazda 6. Car that has been on sale for 12 years and the car that cemented Mazda's reputation as driver's car. Well engineered, nice interiors, so the 6e has really large shoes to fill. There is a big elephant in the room, however, and that is that this car isn't a Mazda development. It's based on a Chinese car, which model name and brand I constantly keep forgetting, so forgive me. But anyway, Mazda took an existing car, Mazda-fified it, and then put it on sale. Good idea? Worthy successor to the Mazda 6? Well, let's find out. So it's very nice for the sun to show up, so you can really see the nice glow and depth of the Soul Red Crystal, Mazda's signature paint. I want to go over some details of the front end design. What seem to be the headlights are nothing more than very elaborate daytime running lights, and they are integrated with a light design in the grille, which is in my opinion very un-Mazda-like. Mazdas were very subtle and understated in their design. This is quite flashy when you put it on. I'll put up a picture of this car in dark so you can see it. The actual headlights are over here. As you may expect, they are full LED, but they are not adaptive. It does have a real Mazda front fascia also, but the light show is something that I didn't expect to see on a Mazda. Anyway, let's open up the hood. To be honest, this isn't a hood nor a bonnet, this is the front trunk lid, and underneath here is a sea of plastic, gas struts, very nice by the way, and a 72-liter frunk or front trunk. Underneath here is not an electric motor. The car that this is based on is also available as a hybrid, but as the Mazda 6e it's only EV. It comes in two versions, namely the standard range and the long range. Standard range has a 68.8 kilowatt-hour battery and a range of 480 kilometers. It's based on a modern battery technology, LFP, which stands for lithium ferrite phosphor, and it's capable of fast charging at 165 kilowatts. And that is actually the version that you should get, because you can charge it from 10 to 80% in 24 minutes. This is the long range, which has a battery capacity of 80 kilowatt hours, and it's a lithium ion battery, and it can only fast charge at 80 kilowatts, meaning it has to charge in 47 minutes from 10 to 80%. Both cars have the same top speed, 175 kilometers, and there's a slight difference in engine output. In fact, the standard range version has more horsepower, 258, and this one, long range, 245 horsepower, but both motors have the same torque of 320 Newton meters. So as said, there's not much to see here, only some inspection hatches, and here is the filler cap for the washer fluid. So let's close this up and have a look in the cargo area. The outgoing Mazda 6 was only available as a sedan or a wagon, but the Mazda 6e is a liftback that gives you a nice big trunk opening. As you can see, it has an electric opener and it is quite slow. One downside is that this is as far as it opens. I'm not the tallest, but if you're any taller than me and you have to load or unload it, you're likely to smack your head into at least this edge, or even the lock over here. But anyway, cargo space 465 liters as is, and it's a nice and square cargo area. It's finished in real Mazda fashion. There's no bare metal, it's just well finished in nice soft materials. When you fold the rear seats down, you end up with a cargo space of 1074 liters, which is pretty nice and practical. As you can see, the parcel shelf is long, it folds in two sections over here. Underneath here is a little compartment that you could store real small stuff in here, but it's mainly for emergency equipment, so the emergency triangle, first aid kit, things like that. This section over here cannot be raised or lowered because the electric motor, this is a rear-wheel drive car only, the electric motor lives underneath here, and that is the little bag for the the charge cable. And over here is the subwoofer for the Sony audio system that comes with this trim level, which is the highest trim level. Anyways, nice cargo space. Let's close up and have a peek in the interior. So let's hop aboard. Mazda interiors always used to be real nice places, nice materials, nice fit and finish, great ergonomics. This, however, is the polar opposite of it. For starters, when you get in the car, it automatically starts up. There is no start switch to be seen. Also, there is no light switch. There is no wiper stalk. A lot of controls are missing. Even the HVAC controls are missing. And every time I get in the car, I have to scroll through these menus. This is the privacy policy and the user policy. Everything in this interior is hidden in this touchscreen. As said, even the wipers, the door mirror controls, when you adjust the mirrors you have to go into this menu. Honestly, it really doesn't work for me. So what happens if you want to operate a very basic function, you always have to be in this screen, and as soon as you start operating that, the driver attention monitor starts to warn me that I should pay attention to the road, but I want to have the wipers on. I want to be able to see the road. I do have seat controls over here, but it also can be operated from this menu, and also the seat heaters. It does have seat ventilation, which I think is real nice. It comes, I believe, as standard on the 6e, but everything is in this screen. And in front of you have a little instrument cluster, but the font size is quite small. So what often happens when I look through the window and then look to this screen, my eyes have to focus because the font size is real small and it's real hard to read. I don't have the issue with this screen. And I've been driving this car for 5 days now and I haven't been able to get used to it. Luckily, we do have normal buttons for the door, for the windows, I must say, and it has these real nice frameless windows, which is a nice design touch. And speaking about windows, the overall visibility of this bodywork is great. It has a 360-degree camera that you can pull up with a touch of the button. And the finish, the materials used in here, this is something that we've seen in the outgoing Mazda 6. This nice suede-like material is actually real nice. Now this is the upper trim level. The lower trim level gets fake leather in white and black, but that also is real nice, and this is just nicer to feel and to the touch. But the fact that we have a big lack of physical controls make it very hard for me to love this interior and drive with this car. Well, look over here, we have this large, I would say plank, this large center console. There's a wireless charger. My glasses are over here because there isn't a compartment for glasses. 2 cup holders. In this higher trim level gets this wood-like finish, but it's very obviously plastic. The Nissan Ariya has the same, but it's much more convincing, that wood grain in the Nissan Ariya, than in this car. Mazda did much better job in the older generations of car. And also this is the gear selection lever, of the drive direction lever. It looks like a Mercedes thingy, and it also activates the cruise control. One push down is the regular cruise control, and there's a D-pad in there. When you push it through, it is the adaptive cruise control. With the drive selector, the direction selector, there is an issue, and that is when I have it in drive like I have now and put it in park, it engages the parking brake, but during that period it stays in gear. It doesn't shift to neutral. So what often happens is I reverse, push the P button to put the parking brake on and release the brake, but during the activation of the parking brake it's still in gear, so it rolls back. This is the only car that does it. Every other car, as soon as you push the P button, parking brake, it goes into neutral, so the car doesn't roll. As said, there is no stock for the wiper. There is this little button over here for little push, is a single wipe, and when you push it through its detent, there is the washer. But if you want to activate the wiper, it goes via this screen. Now some smarty pants at Mazda has used this little preset button. When I push this, it pulls up the wiper menu and screen immediately. So let's have a peek in the rear passenger compartment. So this is actually the first time again in the rear of this car, and as said, the passenger space in terms of room, leg room, headroom is quite good. Now this car does have the sunroof that comes with the higher trim level. It eats up a little bit of headroom. I have headroom, but not the most, and the same is true in the front. So if you're any taller than me, I'm 175, yeah, that's something that you might want to check if you want to buy this car. But again, as in the front, real nice materials, real nice color use. The suede-like material is even used in the doors. And have these little things in the headrest, which also hold the speakers for the Sony audio system. The nice thing is that the rear passengers do have buttons, yeah, albeit touch buttons, to operate the climate control and the sunroof. And we have an armrest with two cup holders. Yep, seating comfort. You look at the angle of the seat and the seat back is real nice. So let's do the window test. It's mandatory in a real life car review. And we immediately see that the window only goes halfway open. And that's not impressive. But view towards the outside, even for smaller children, I think is pretty good. One note about build quality I didn't show you in the front interior segment. There are certain panels in the door handles that come off, and that shows that the build quality of this car, it looks nice, but if you look closely you can see that the build quality isn't up to the standards that Mazda used to have. This really is a car from another manufacturer. Anyway, I think it's about time for a drive. So the first thing that you'll notice when driving this car for a couple of days is the absolute lack of electric motor noise. Nearly every electric car that I have driven, you could hear a little whine from the electric motor, but not in this case. It is super quiet. And let's start drivetrain calibration. Slow corner, and I'm flooring it. It pulls off, but it is not an overwhelming amount of torque, not dangerous for inexperienced drivers as some other EVs are. I think the drivetrain calibration, the setup is really nice. When you floor the accelerator on a straight road or mid-corner, there is an immediate response. There's quite a bit of torque, but the software immediately starts to level down the acceleration so it doesn't overwhelm you. If you're coming from an older vehicle and this is your first time driving an EV, it's not to the point where it gets dangerous, so that's a good thing. And as I mentioned in the interior segment, we don't have any flappy pedals to set the Regen braking, and I don't miss them at all. I have to do all braking with the brake pedal. When I release the accelerator, it just coasts and rolls out like any regular internal combustion engine car. That feels very natural. And if you want to brake, you use the brake pedal. There is no setting for Regen braking, at least not with flappy pedals. Maybe there is, it's hidden in the screen. I haven't been able to find it, but I also don't miss it. And that, I think, is a nice thing. However, I had to do, well, a sort of an emergency stop, so I all of a sudden pushed the brake pedal. It started Regen braking, but it needed a hydraulic brake, and there was a little bit of lag in the car's response to the brake pedal. That was not nice. That, I think, is a little bit unsafe. Okay, as said, the lack of physical controls, I think, is horrible. The interior space is nice, good overall visibility. It's quiet, it's very comfortable. I think the suspension has a very comfortable setup, so that makes for a great family car, I would say. But there are some real big cons to this car, especially when you look at this car as a Mazda enthusiast, which I think I am. Well, let me be honest about that. The big thing is that this car's straight line stability. The straight line stability of this car is not good. Let me put it that way. Try to put it mildly. When I'm driving on a highway in a straight line, under cruise control or adaptive cruise control, yeah, it seems to be very sensitive to side winds. And also when I'm on one of these back roads and I have a straight section of road, I am constantly steering because the car just doesn't run nicely in a straight line. It's just not good, and it's beyond me how this is possible. It's partially, I think, the suspension layout, suspension setup, but also a matter of good alignment. I think if the car would have a little bit more toe in at the front and toe out at the back, I mean, it's a rear-wheel drive car, the straight line stability would benefit greatly from that. And I haven't been able to figure out what causes this, especially regarding that this is a Mazda, and every Mazda that I've driven prior had great driving characteristics. This car doesn't have that. So there is that. Then there is the steering. The steering is completely numb. What it means is I could be driving on a warm day with super sticky tires on a perfect tarmac road, or I could be driving. So what I wanted to say while I got interrupted is that the steering of this car is absolutely numb. I could be driving on a tarmac road, perfect tarmac road with super sticky tires, or I could be driving on an icy road with bald tires. I cannot tell the difference with this steering system of this car. I'm driving in a straight line now, and I can do this with the steering wheel. The car barely moves. I'll try to drive in a straight line. The road is a little bit undulating, but I'm constantly making small changes, corrections with the steering wheel, and the steering system hardly responds to that. It's like in one of the older movies with people who drive a car and you can see them constantly operating the steering wheel, turning the steering wheel. It's the same in this car. When you look at this car as a driving enthusiast, as a Mazda fan, it's disappointing. However, if you're new to the brand, you go drive this and you're not much of a driving enthusiast and you look for a great, spacious, comfortable family car and an EV, you probably wouldn't notice it, but there's that. Let's try the adaptive cruise control. So you have to push the start completely down. That sets one detent is the cruise control, and when you push it through the detent, you get the adaptive cruise control, and you can adjust the speed with these buttons over here on the left spoke of the steering wheel. It's a two-spoke steering wheel, by the way. Don't see it that all too often. But anyway, now it's adaptive cruise control, and the auto steer is cancelling, then it operates, then it sees the lane markings, and it does that on the highway too. It cancels itself without warning. So I was driving on the highway earlier this week when I picked up the car, was on adaptive cruise control. There is a slight bend and curvature in the road, 4-lane highway, and all of a sudden the cruise control, the adaptive cruise control, cancels itself, let go of the steering wheel while it was steering in a corner. The car twitched and moved to the lane marking. It crossed the lane marking, and then it started to warn me, and it twitched back because the lane departure warning corrected basically itself. So the car made a real twitchy motion, and it happened over and over again. And that's a thing that absolutely needs to be corrected and updated, in my humble opinion, because that's not fun if the car behaves like that. So what I did, I went back using the regular cruise controls, and then you notice the downside of the poor straight line stability and the indirectness of the steering. Okay, do a little acceleration pull on the on-ramp here. You can see the torque kicks in, but now it starts to dial back, and as soon as you go any faster, now I reached the max speed already, on that nice, quiet and supple, no drama there, but you can already tell when the speed is approaching 100 kilometers an hour, the torque is leveled down in order not to go too fast. It's very controllable. I think that was the priority while setting up the drivetrain calibration. So we're doing highway speeds now, a little bit faster than allowed, and the car is quiet. There's only a little bit of wind noise over the door mirrors, and the door mirrors are the one thing to me that give away that this isn't an original Mazda design. Mazda door mirrors look very differently, and apparently they also have very different aerodynamic capabilities. These are a little bit noisy, but it's noticeable because the rest of the car, as I always say, is so incredibly quiet. So it would make a real great long distance cruiser, especially when you get the short range version with its faster charging, but it's just the thing with the steering and straight line stability that knock it down for me. So hoping for improvements over there. But anyway, I've touched upon all my talking points for this drive segment, so let's head out to the middle of nowhere for my final thoughts. So see you in a second. I am obviously not wearing my Mazda hat today, and I think sometimes it's better to be honest, maybe even a little bit harsh. Yeah, because I don't want to see Mazda fail or to even hurt itself. Mazda's had great ride and handling, great interior ergonomics, and there always was a real genuine connectivity between car and driver, what they call yin ba and tai. And none of these core values are present in the Mazda 6e as it stands. Needs some slight improvements, especially to the touchscreen. I would like to see physical controls in the interior, but updates to the touchscreen and infotainment would greatly improve the usability of this car. Also with some slight rework of the suspension, the straight line stability, especially when it comes to the alignment. Straight line stability would be much better, but the steering most of all needs improvement, because in that aspect it lacks most in Mazda core values. So as it stands, I would not recommend this car for myself. Maybe different for you. If you're not a driving enthusiast, this car may just work for you. In that case, I would recommend driving the short range version because of its much faster fast charging capabilities. That is the better choice. But if you do go for the test drive in the 6e, do yourself a favor and go test drive one of the Mazdas of the older generations and experience how a Mazda could and should drive, and then form your opinion. What I would recommend doing is just to wait and see if Mazda will implement improvements. They kind of rushed the CX-60 to the market, the PHEV version, and they needed to fine-tune it, and I'm a little bit worried that they have to do the same with this car. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed and hope that they would implement changes, updates and upgrades to this car within the next year and a half. Other than that, it isn't all negative. It's a very great family car. It's spacious, it has nice seating comfort, it has a lot of luxury. The audio system is actually quite good. I didn't talk about that in the prior segments. And yeah, it has a great cargo capacity, and overall it's very quiet and it's very comfortable car. So as a family car, as a family EV, this makes a lot of sense. More sense than many of the existing SUV EVs. My father-in-law always has a great saying when he sees something that he doesn't like, but he appreciates the effort. He calls it extraordinary. To me, this is an extraordinary car, and I leave it at that. I hope you liked following me along, and if you did, let me know by giving me a like, subscribing to my channel, leave a quick comment if you have a question or any constructive feedback, and if you want to help support the channel, you can do so by buying me a coffee. I'll leave the link down in the description box. For now, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you on the next one. Bye.